Well, we're going to read the Bible together and we're going to look at what God's got to say to us from it. So if you've got a Bible, please turn first of all to Hebrews chapter 12. And then if you want to put a finger in Mark chapter 14, you'll be in the right place. So we're going to read just a few verses from Hebrews chapter 12 to begin with. And then we're going to read Mark chapter 14, or at least the first part of it, together. Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endures such opposition from sinners, so that he will not grow weary and lose heart. Okay, back in Mark chapter 14, just read the first 12 verses, or first 11 verses, I should say. And the Passover and the festival of unleavened bread were only 2 days away, and the chief priests and the teachers of the law were scheming to arrest Jesus secretly and kill him. But not during the festival, they said, or the people may riot. While he was in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head. Some of those present were saying indignantly to one another, "Why this waste of perfume? It could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor." And they rebuked her harshly. "Leave her alone," Jesus said. "Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you'll always have with you. You can help them any time you want, but you will not always have me." She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body beforehand to prepare for my burial. Truly I tell you, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests to betray Jesus to them. They were delighted to hear this and promised to give him money. So he watched for an opportunity to hand him over. Now just keep your Bible open, because we're just going to dive right into God's Word. We're going to give God the opportunity to speak first. That seems fair, doesn't it? We gather to hear what he's got to say. So we might have first dibs, and then we're going to try and respond to what he's got to say. Now, Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 is probably one of the most familiar verses in the Bible. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. Let me read that to you in a slightly more modern translation. So it says this: "And let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. We do this fixing our eyes on Jesus, on whom our faith depends from start to finish." Okay, just going to keep these words in your head, because that's what we're going to read today. Now, if you know anything about the book of Hebrews, you know that it's a collection of sermons that an absent pastor wrote to his church family, and did so with a great deal of concern for them. He feared this was a church that was becoming lazy he urged them to make every effort. He called upon them to pay more careful attention because they were at risk of drifting away. And this kind of language of making an effort, paying attention, is kind of summed up in this picture of the race that he uses in this verse here. Let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. Now, I don't know how today finds you. Maybe you're just here in church by the skin of your teeth. Maybe you feel weary and tired. Not because you haven't slept a lot, but just because the Christian life seems so hard. It seems to bring us disappointment, raises questions in our heads. You may invest time and effort, but find that there is little to show for it. That's pretty much where we've been as a church over the past few months. We had a church meeting recently. We removed a couple of people from membership, but many of us had put a huge deal of effort into their lives, and people that we genuinely had affection for. There are people going through marriage difficulties. There are blended families that are at war with each other. That's where we are. That's where we live. That's the race. Now, clearly, your race might not be like my race. When Jesus says to Peter, Peter, this is what the race is going to look like when you get a bit older. Somebody else is going to dress you and going to end up going places you don't want to go. Peter goes, oh, Lord, what about this man's race? Jesus says, don't you worry about him. Just you follow me. That picture of a race is not a phase. It's not like someone might have a period in their life when they like jogging or going running or whatever. This is not about fitness. This is about faith. And our ability to endure in this sometimes exhausting race is all down to our faith in Jesus Christ, on whom your faith depends from start to finish. So, fix your eyes on Jesus. If you want to run this race with endurance, that's where your attention needs to be. That's why we've read Mark 14, and that's where we're going to spend most of the time today. We're going to say two things from this little section, okay? So here's number one. Fix your eyes on Jesus if you want to be clear about what's really important. Okay? Fix your eyes on Jesus if you want to be clear about what's really important. Now, we've read those first 11 verses. They give you a bit of a time marker. We're just 2 days away from Jesus' execution. He's already predicted it 3 times in the Gospel. In Jerusalem, people are plotting his murder. But Jesus is out for a meal with his friends. He's in Bethany, a few miles away from Jerusalem. And while he's there, this incident takes place. An unnamed woman takes a jar of expensive perfume, breaks the neck over it and pours it over his head. And all the men in the room, or at least a good number of them, start complaining about what she has done. They seem completely insensitive to what this might mean to Jesus. These men are his disciples. Move to the end of the section. You meet another of his disciples, Judas, who is at this point in time plotting to betray him. You move from insensitivity to betrayal. If you look across to the other side of the page, you find there Jesus in verse 30 predicting the denial of his best friend Peter. You'll deny me 3 times, he says. More disappointment, more discouragement. They then go to a garden, and as the terrifying reality of where Jesus' race is going to take him, verse 34 he says, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch." Now what he's saying to his friends is, I just need to know that you're with me. I just want your company. But they don't give it to him. They fall asleep. They leave him to himself. Jesus is hit by one blow after another. Watch as he goes through insensitivity, treachery, distancing, disappointment. Now, if you want a word to describe all that, the word is circumstances. These are the things that surround Jesus' life that he has no control over. Now, for you and I, it might be a burst pipe or a flat tire. Circumstances. Things you don't control that make you feel down or up one way or the other. But ask yourself this question. Which is more wearying? A broken central heating system or a broken relationship? I know you need to think about that for too long. That's what Jesus is. But here's the thing. Jesus says that these are not the most important things. So we look at his life, full of bad circumstances, but he continues to powerfully run the race that God has set before him. Have a good look at him this morning. Now the irony of Mark chapter 14 is this. As people are distancing themselves from Jesus, as they're saying to themselves, he's too dangerous, we need to take a step back, Jesus is moving towards them. So in that little incident you saw at the start, as these powerful men express their displeasure at what this woman has done, how stupid, she's a stupid woman, wasting all that money. Jesus doesn't throw her under the bus. He protects her. Why are you bothering her, he says. She has done a beautiful thing. She did what she could. Do you see? He protects his woman. Whilst Peter will deny him, Jesus will remind us that the flock might scatter, but he will go looking for them. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee. And when he's on trial and he announces to his enemies that you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven, verse 62. Now you might say to yourself, well, words are cheap. Anyone can make predictions. But you see what happens next if you're following this in your Bible there, that section of 62. They mock the idea that he's a prophet. They blindfold him, they punch him, and then they say, okay, prophet, tell us who punched you. Notice for you what Mark puts right after that section. They mock him as a prophet, and Mark says, the words he spoke about Peter come true with mathematical precision. 3 times you'll deny, twice the rooster will crow. That's what's going to happen. Fix your eyes on Jesus. This is what counts. You might feel you're a nobody in the eyes of the world, despised by those who seem important, let down by others. Jesus will be your protection. This unnamed woman feels the arm of Jesus go around her. You might have got it badly wrong and wandered a long way. If you are one of his sheep, he will come looking for you. And in a world that says it's all about the style with which you travel, Jesus says, no, it's all about arriving safely at the finishing line. And he is dedicated to gathering these people and bringing them safely across the finishing line. Fix your eyes on Jesus if you would know what is really important. It's not your circumstances. It is your faith in the Son of God. Now, I'm going to say one other thing, okay, from this section. Let me just move on to that now. Here's the second one. Fix your eyes on Jesus if you want to be confident about the finish. Fix your eyes on Jesus if you would be confident about the finish. Now, if you know this section of Mark's Gospel, Mark chapter 14, there are 2 meals, one in which Jesus is the guest, the other one in which he's the host. And there are 2 cups, one that he will drink and one that you will be given. But Jesus, when he's confronted with this cup that he describes in verse 36, and pleads with his Father to take away from him, this cup that causes his soul to be overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Let these words just weigh on you this morning. He sees his cup being presented to him by his Father, and it just about kills him. Think about this. Fail to brush your teeth, and you're going to have cavities. You're probably also going to fall out with your dentist. Eat a beige diet, your health will suffer. Maybe you'll fall out with your doctor. Don't turn up at work on time. Don't expect to have a job for very long. You'll fall out with your boss. We call these things consequences. Don't do this, this will happen. Don't do this, this will happen. Don't do this, this will happen. Now, what is the thing that the 21st century finds hardest to understand about the church? This, that we think sin's important. That is the most bizarre thought to 21st century people. Why would you worry about sin? Worry about climate change? Worry about the cost of living? Worry about employment levels? Sin? You must be joking. And yet, you think we can work out consequences for our health. We can work out consequences in relation to our employers. Why can we not work out the consequences in relation to God? Say, imagine a cup. Imagine a cup. Imagine that every time you tell a lie, you get unreasonably angry. Every time you lust, every time you want what other people have got, every time you look down on somebody, every time that you are careless, a little bit more goes into the cup. We'll call this the cup of consequences. This is the cup that will be waiting for every single human being when they arrive in the presence of God. There you are, that's your consequences. Yeah. And we're all adding to it, day by day, by day, by day, by day. This is what appalls Jesus. The thought that he will taste the consequences of your sin and mine. That is what almost kills him. And of course, what you see is when he goes to the cross, when he experiences what happens to him, he is enduring. He's drinking the cup. He's experienced the consequences. So, all friends have gone. All he's left with are mockers. All comfort's gone. All he's left now is agony and torture. But we haven't reached the bottom yet. The high point of his suffering. All hope is gone. He finds himself forsaken. He's in that place of hell. He's drunk the consequences. Experienced them on our behalf. Now here's the greatest encouragement for you and I to keep running this race. The glass will be empty when you reach the finish, because he has drunk it for you. These consequences no longer await us up ahead. The confidence that you and I can have about the finish will be directly related to how clearly we have fixed our eyes on Jesus. Yeah? You got that? The final cup in the Passover meal. You can look at the other cup now. Okay? There are 4 cups in the Passover. And the final cup is the cup of blessing. And that's what Jesus offers to his disciples. So he drinks the cup of cursing to its dregs, so that he can hand the cup of blessing to his disciples. Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, and they all drank from it. Now that word blessing has kind of had the meaning drained out of it. It's become a kind of cute word. Or it's a word that we've kind of lost the history behind. So when somebody sneezes, we say, bless you. Now you probably know that the custom of saying bless you when somebody sneezes comes from the 17th century and the bubonic plague. If you saw somebody sneeze, it was probably a sign that they had caught the plague. And by saying, bless you, may the Lord bless you, you were saying, may the curse not get to you. That's what happens at the cross. We get blessing. He gets cursing. And all this amounts to is the clearest expression of the love of God for people. Plain and simple. The God who needs nothing, who is eternal and utterly holy and completely happy in himself, has taken upon himself the consequences, the cursing, to be able to offer to us a cup of blessing. It is an enormous expression of God's love. But the thing about love is this. Don't miss this. Love always looks for response. It never expects you to spectate. Well, that's very interesting. Oh, yeah, very nice. No. It's always looking for something to be returned. Send something back. So you go back to the unnamed woman at the start of the passage, with her little perfume bottle or ointment container that she snaps the head off and pours over Jesus. We're told it's made of spikenard, a rare root from a plant in the north of India, and it's worth more than a year's wages. Now, I calculate that the minimum wage today is something about £21,000. £21,000 poured over the head of Jesus. Do you see what she's saying to you and me? She's saying, what do you think Jesus is worth? What do you think he's worth? What's precious to you in your life? Time? Money? Your home? Your privacy? Your hobbies? What share of that does Jesus get? What's he worth? What are we giving? How are we responding to his gift towards us? Now, it's not about one-off gestures. Please don't think that. It's not about kind of extravagant one-off gestures. It's about running the race with endurance. It's about keeping going when it's tough. It's about saying, I'm not doing this because my eyes are on you. I'm not doing this because my eyes are on the church and I think it's great, lovely institution. No. I'm doing this because this is what Jesus is worth. You think? Yeah? Fix your eyes on Jesus. Not on his imperfect disciples and not on his flawed church, but on him himself.